Welcome into the Wiltfong Whiparound with Steve Wiltfong. I'm your host, Josh Newberg, and today's Monday, December 2nd. It is coming down to the wire. We are just 2 days from the early signing period, and we had a busy weekend. I know you guys know because just check the channel. The views are up. Everything's going crazy. We love it. And today, we got Steve Wiltfong, the #1 recruiting insider in the game. So all you guys got to do is sit back for the next 20 to 30 minutes and get caught up on all things recruiting because signing day's in 2 days. So let's bring in the great Steve Wiltfong. Steve, I know it's been busy, and we got to start with one of the top names. #1 offensive tackle, David Sanders. Now, there was rumors over the last 2 weeks over Ohio State coming out of that visit, but it seems like maybe things have stabilized. So can Tennessee secure the signature of David Sanders Jr.?
Stabilize is the right word. I like the way this is trending for Tennessee late in the cycle to get their coveted recruit, the class jewel, David Sanders Jr.'s signature on Wednesday. No news is good news. He did not visit Ohio State for the game against Michigan. There was a lot of talk during the week that he could possibly make it back to Columbus after visiting for the win over Indiana the weekend prior. And my source on it texted me at 6:30 in the morning on Saturday instead of texting me on Friday, just in case the Sanders family didn't change their mind at the last minute and just drive up to Ohio State. So that's how close this has been down the stretch as they dot I's and cross T's on this recruitment. And they visited Ohio State for the Indiana game, had a fantastic weekend, but he's been committed to Tennessee since the summer. He's been in Knoxville for several games since. Really was only talking to the Tennessee coaching staff until the last couple weeks. That I think they had good conversations with Tennessee this past week, and this is stabilizing and on track for him to sign with the Vols on Wednesday. We'll see what happens over the next 48 hours.
Yeah, we will. But for now, Tennessee fans kind of taking a little sigh of relief with that report. All right, any other big names that you're tracking on Tennessee's radar?
Yeah, Isaiah Campbell's obviously the big name, top 100 defensive lineman from North Carolina that's down to the Vols and the Tar Heels. He's going to announce his college decision on December 4th right here on the On3 Recruits YouTube channel. So make sure you hit like and subscribe. And we love where Tennessee stands. He visited the Vols twice this fall, including for their last home game, to go back up there and get some questions answered on the academic side. He had no questions on the football side from what he's seen from the Vols this year. He took his official visit for the win over Alabama, the way they're playing on defense, the relationship with Coach Garner, Coach Garner's track record of development at the position, the environment inside Neyland Stadium. But getting back again, getting his academic questions answered, I think has put Tennessee in prime position to land his signature on Wednesday and add to a top 10 class. Vols look playoff bound. It's going to be an exciting finish to the season for Tennessee. They would also like to flip linebacker Jaden Perlotti, a USC commit that's been to Tennessee again this fall from USC by the end of the cycle.
All right. Now, they're also, they're fighting these battles, but they're also playing some defense, some commits that have been taking visits elsewhere. I want to check in on, can they hang on to Onis Konanbanny, Christian Gass, and Darion Smith?
Well, Onis Konanbanny is definitely giving a hard look to Florida after a recent official visit to the Gators campus, and he's been keeping some other schools warm. So Tennessee is in a dogfight to keep Onis Konanbanny in the fold. I think the Laganza Shady Hayward decommitment yesterday caught them by surprise. Florida and Georgia battling down the stretch for him. Georgia also continuing to recruit Christian Gass. That's one my antenna's up on leading into Wednesday. I know Tennessee has done a lot to get them in the fold and keep them in the fold, but they're going to have to battle over these next 2 days.
All right, Tennessee fans, you got to like the report that you're hearing on David Sanders Jr. What about Isaiah Campbell? How do you think Tennessee finishes? Let us know. Comment section below. We got to talk about one of the hottest teams on the recruiting trail right now. That's the Florida Gators. They've been going flip crazy, and they are trending for more. Steve, you put in recent picks for DB Hilton Stubbs to flip from Miami, and then earlier on Sunday, Laganza Shady Hayward decommits from Tennessee. You put a pick in for him as well. Gators looking to really upgrade this secondary.
Well, Josh, Florida had a top 10 recruiting class in 2024. Ever since there's been a vote of confidence for Billy Napier to return for the next season, and then they go out and close the season with 3 straight wins, They've been on fire on the trail and could push their way into the top 10 for a second straight cycle. They currently sit at number 14. There's a lot of big fish still on the board for Billy Napier and the Gators, and that starts with Hilton Drake Stubbs, top 100 defensive back from Jacksonville Mandarin. He is committed to Miami, but multiple sources tell On3 he is a heavy trend to Florida right now. He visited campus on Saturday, and I love for him to ultimately land in this Gators class.
All right, now I've been connecting the dots because you got DB Hilton Stubbs. He's from Jacksonville Mandarin. Now, Hilton Stubbs trending in UF's direction. His quarterback at that school, Tramel Jones, flipped from Florida State to Florida about 2-3 weeks ago now. So that leads me, because I'm connecting the dots over here, that leads me to Jamie French, the 5-star wide receiver at Jacksonville Mandarin, teammates with Stubbs and Jones. So he's committed to Texas. What's the latest on UF's ability to flip Jamie French from the Longhorns?
Well, talking to sources about this yesterday, working the storylines with Keith Niebuhr and Chad Simmons, we do think that Florida gaining momentum with Stubbs also helps with Jamie French. And Florida maybe gets the spatula out and flips French anyway. I know there's confidence around Austin and that Texas program that they keep French in the fold. But Florida, with the momentum that they have on the trail, it's Spatula City. How can you count them out for Jamie French at this point in the cycle?
Yeah, I was saying, Florida reminds me of Auburn down the stretch last year. If there was one team, you have all your commits. You did not want Auburn knocking at the door of one of your commits last year around this time. This year, though, it's the Florida Gators. They seem unstoppable. So that leads me to the next 5-star I want to talk to you about, and that's 5-star lineman Solomon Thomas. And guess where he's from? Jacksonville, Florida. No, not Mandarin High School, but he's from Jacksonville. He's committed to Florida State, and he was at that game Saturday night in Doak, in Tallahassee, watching the team he's committed to get beat by the Florida Gators. Do you think this could be another flip down the stretch for the Gators?
Well, Florida State's poured a lot of infrastructure and resources into the recruitment of Solomon Thomas. The problem is he doesn't know who his offensive line coach is going to be. We'll see if the Seminoles get one named over the next day or so. Depending on who you talk to, LSU is trending, Florida's trending. We just know the Seminoles have their hands full. And I think this is one of the targets at the end of the cycle that Florida will really push and invest in to try and get in the class.
All right. Well, Florida Gator fans, talk to Steve and I. Who are you tracking over the next 48 hours?
Josh, we got more Florida names we got to talk about here before we get out of this segment. Lagonza, Shady Hayward, they're battling Georgia down the stretch. They had Hayward on campus yesterday. The On3 RPM is on the Gators right now for Shady Hayward, but we are certainly still keeping an eye on Georgia and that recruitment. How about Florida bringing that one full circle with 4-star Joseph Mbachu yesterday? Yeah. He was at one point committed to Florida, commits to Texas, visits Florida yesterday. He's in the fold. They're swinging at Myron Charles, another Texas commit. So I think that they're alive in that recruitment. And then Onis Konanban, he's a defensive back, 4-star, committed to Tennessee right now, that could also ultimately end up in this Gators class. So, again, they could be top 10 2 cycles in a row.
And, hey, if things get crazy enough, we could be talking about Naeem Offord as a potential flip. I mean, he did sneak in for an official visit just 2 weeks ago, right, Steve?
Yeah, no, I think that they gave him a lot to think about during that visit to Gainesville as well.
All right. Well, Florida Gator fans, talk to Steve and I. How crazy is it going to get over the next 48 hours? Who are the big flips you're watching? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk some Michigan recruiting, because over the last 3 weeks, Michigan has just transformed themselves into a recruiting juggernaut. You don't believe me? Just last night, they flipped top 150 safety Jordan Young from Clemson. I mean, you guys remember on November 2nd, Jordan Young committed to Clemson right here on this channel. A month later, he's a Michigan Wolverine. Let's bring in the great Steve Wiltfong, and there could be more. There's a major development that went down on Friday. E.J. Holland of the Wolverine was in Texas at offensive tackle Ty Haywood. He's a 5-star offensive tackle committed to Alabama. He went to his playoff game. After the game, he spoke to E.J. Holland and said that he is thinking about delaying his signing because of the Michigan Wolverine. So, what do you think of this latest development, and what does Ty Haywood mean exactly by delaying? Do you think he's talking about delaying a day or two, or is he going to take this thing into January, February?
Well, that's the thing. If he does not sign a letter of intent with Alabama during this upcoming 3-day early signing period that starts on Wednesday, you have to really think that this is trending well for Michigan down the stretch, with an opportunity to get him on campus when the dead period ends for an official visit. And so obviously good news for Michigan right now if they can hold off. Now, Alabama's going to try and get him to sign. And you and I both know we have seen recruits in this early signing period era say they're not going to sign early, and then those papers seem to come in on Wednesday. So Alabama's obviously going to put the foot down and push for him to sign in this early signing period. And he's been committed to the Crimson Tide for a long time, but no question, at the very least, the Wolverines are giving Ty Haywood a lot to think about at the end of the cycle. Other programs have tried to come in and make enticing opportunities for Ty Haywood, but they've been denied. But Michigan is still a program that he's keeping warm, and if he visits, it would definitely not be surprising if he ultimately ended up in this Michigan class, one that ranks number 8 nationally.
What a crazy recent development. Now, the next name is not a recent development. We're talking linebacker Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng. And this has been a two-team race for about the last month of his recruitment. You got Michigan and Colorado. Steve, any insight into who could land him?
Well, I just know that Michigan's on the gas pedal for him, and talking to a source close to Owusu-Boateng, this one's very tight and it could go either way. Colorado, obviously there's an opportunity for him to get on the field and start in his first year. He's got some teammates committed there, some former teammates already on the roster, but he's been to Michigan countless times, including a couple games this fall. Him and his family feel very comfortable in Ann Arbor, love the staff, love the culture of the program, and think it's an environment that he could really thrive in. So Michigan's right there at the end pushing for Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng. Another blue chipper out there for them, Josh, is Javian Hilson, the edge rusher from Cocoa, Florida. He took an official visit 2 weekends ago for the Wolverines' last home game against Northwestern. If you remember, he was expected at Florida, but Michigan was able to convince him to take his visit to the Wolverines instead. Now, he just took a visit to Missouri this weekend. He's been to Pittsburgh and Syracuse. Texas A&M are in the equation, and I think infrastructure and resources very important in this recruitment. But when he's on campus, he's asking great questions. He's really engaged with the staff. This is a high-motored football player that is very disruptive behind the line of scrimmage for one of the Sunshine State's top high school program. So infrastructure and resources, this young man has earned it. And I think Michigan's in there mixing it up, trying to land this young man. And then obviously you got the Moten kid from Kentucky, going to announce his commitment on Thursday on the On3 Recruits YouTube channel. So please hit like and subscribe so you're up to date on when that video is coming. I believe 4 o'clock his time. And I like where Michigan stands. They're battling Virginia and Texas Tech. He leads the state of Kentucky in sacks. He is someone that makes a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage. His stock really soared at the end of the cycle. He took a visit to Michigan last Sunday and Monday, and the maize and blue are trending for Moten.
So, Steve, Michigan recruiting started heating up, like I said, like 3-4 weeks ago. You know, it all coincided with the Bryce Underwood recruitment, but Michigan was hot before the win over Ohio State. So do you expect this sort of recruiting for Michigan to continue at this pace into 2026 and beyond?
Well, they're going to be a team that's going to have a lot of fun in this offseason. They're going to bring in top recruits for basketball games. There's a lot of excitement around this basketball program right now. New coach, new energy, new environment. We know that Sharon Morris is involved, the head coach recruiter, as there is in the Big Ten right now. You have the momentum of landing Bryce Underwood. You just beat Ohio State for the 4th time. They're coming into a bowl game, playing at a high level. The NFL draft is going to be good to Michigan in April, like it's always been. So there are a lot of reasons to think that Michigan's going to get off to a very hot start in 2026 as we turn the page.
Wow. What an incredible turn of events for Michigan fans. Talk to me and Steve. How are we feeling, not just about this class, but just where Michigan recruiting is in general? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk some Texas Aggies recruiting. The Aggies coming off a big visit weekend. Now, of course, the game didn't go the way they wanted it to, but recruits are trending. So let's bring in Steve Wiltfong. And Steve, 5-star wide receiver Jerome Miles. He's the number 24 overall ranked player in America. He decommitted from USC on Sunday, and you got him trending now to the Aggies. What's going on here?
Yeah, Jerome Miles back at Texas A&M for his second time this year. He was also at the game against Notre Dame to open the season. He's seen Kyle Field in all its glory 2 times this fall, and it's an environment and atmosphere he could see himself playing in. Texas A&M, look, they were 1 win away from playing in the SEC championship in Mike Elko and this staff's first season. That is resonating with recruits, how he was able to restore this program into the upper echelon of the SEC. They want to help this program take the next step. Jerome Miles, one of the most electrifying talents at the receiver position in this class. He's got 10.3 speed in the 100-meter dash. He sees an opportunity to come in and play early for the Aggies. Committed to USC earlier in the fall. Texas A&M trending heavily right now for the blue chip receiver. I think he's next in the fold for the Aggies. His quarterback, Helaman Kasuga, is committed to Texas A&M in the 2026 class. A&M sits at number 11 in the standings right now. Has a great chance to finish in the top 10 this cycle. Jerome Miles would be a major pickup for them at the end.
They could have a top 10 finish because that's not the only 5-star left in play for the Aggies. We got 2 on the offensive line. Offensive tackle Michael Fasusi and also offensive tackle Lamont Rogers. But if they want them, they're going to have to flip them.
Yeah, talking to sources that spent time with Lamont Rogers, it was his 4th game at Texas A&M this year. I think that the Aggies are expecting good news this week from Lamont Rogers. That's what the intel and buzz has said for quite some time. But Missouri, they scratch, claw, and battle on the recruiting trail as well. So we'll see what happens. But I continue to like the way that is setting up for Texas A&M at the end of his cycle. Michael Fasusi, first time back at A&M since he committed to Oklahoma. Going into these Texas visit and then A&M, and he's seen Texas play the last 2 weekends of the season. The thought was this is an uphill battle, right, to flip Michael Fasusi. There's some question marks with the Oklahoma coaching staff, though. Who's the new OC going to be? What does that mean for offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh? It's opened the door for Texas and Texas A&M to make a late charge. I know the Longhorns have been all in the last month. The Aggies, they probably were the runner-up the first time. Good conversation with Mike Elko. Coach Adam Cushing, he's done a bunch of Zoom sessions with him, just talking schematics and his potential fit. And so he's definitely comfortable with Texas A&M. Toss-up was the word that I was told on his recruitment coming into the final days. So A&M hosting 3 of their top targets this weekend for the game against Texas. Also had a ton of 2026s, Josh. They could finish with the number 1 class in 2026. The next name to keep an eye on is top 100 defensive back Dorian Barney.
All right. Aggie fans, talk to Steve and I. Comment section below. Do you think this is going to be a top 10 class when it's all said and done? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk Oregon Ducks recruiting because they're trending for another 5-star flip. But before we get to that, last night they flipped Zach Stoskowski from Washington. That was a big rivalry flip right there. But Steve, you got them trending now for a 5-star flip. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Lincoln Cure, tight end from Kansas, committed to Kansas State. Made it back to Oregon over the weekend, talking to his dad, talking to sources with knowledge of the recruitment. This is setting up well for Oregon at the end of the cycle. Loves the championship pedigree, his fit in the offense, the way they develop the tight end position, the opportunities for football players off the field as they play their football and then beyond graduation has put Oregon in great position. Now it's going to be a hard decision. He loves Kansas State. It's in-state. It's home. But as of Sunday night, Oregon was trending for Lincoln Cure to flip him. They never gave up, man. Dan Lanning and company, they poured a lot into that recruitment. He went and visited him when coaches could be on the road. Again, this is one of their favorite guys, regardless of position. I think that they're ultimately going to land him. Another on-3 RPM that I have in favor of Oregon right now, Josh, is 4-star linebacker Gavin Nix. He's committed to Miami. Miami is battling here to try and keep him in the fold. Oregon is considered the leader right now, even though he's committed to the Hurricanes. So if he were to ultimately stick with Mario Cristobal and company, it's because they rallied to keep him in the fold. But another guy that Oregon never quit on. They always loved him, had him at the top of the board, see him as a versatile piece in their defense. And that's something that's attractive to him. And I think that they lead for Knicks right now, but they got to get it home.
All right. Speaking of getting it home, 5-star wide receiver Dallas Wilson, is he all set to sign with Oregon?
Well, the intel has never changed. I think he ultimately signs with Oregon, but certainly we'll see if Florida State, or Miami can change that storyline here over the last 2 days. The other big fish out there for Oregon is 5-star quarterback Jaron Key Sagapolitelli. I talked to a source close to Jaron on Sunday. He said it's still neck and neck with Cal. He's committed to Cal. He was at Cal's season finale win over Stanford, sees an opportunity to be an instant impact player under center for the Bears. But he took his official visit to Oregon. I believe it was for the Illinois game, had a fantastic time. He's the record holder in Hawaii for yards passing and touchdowns. Him and Dylan Gabriel met at the Elite 11 finals in the summer. Dylan Gabriel also from Hawaii. Marcus Mariota also from Hawaii. That quarterback tradition in the state, the amount of Hawaii players that have gone on to Oregon to do well. Will Stein, the offense, the way Oregon's developing quarterbacks, they're right there giving him a lot to think about. I think his mind will be made up some point on Tuesday. Oregon full court press on Jaron at the end of the cycle as much as anybody.
Coming down to the wire. Oregon fans, how do you think the Ducks finish? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk a little Florida State recruiting. They're bouncing back. They're starting to trend for a couple guys. Steve, you have a new prediction in for edge Jesse Harold and wide receiver Tariq Mallory. Florida State going to finish with some fireworks here?
Yeah, these are guys that I think Florida State's in great position to close at the end of the cycle. Had him on campus this weekend. Jesse Harold decommitted from LSU on Thanksgiving, quickly trended towards the Seminoles. And then Tariq, longtime commit to West Virginia, he was already considered an FSU trend, and that was before Neil Brown was fired in Morgantown.
All right, so leads me to my next prospect, defensive lineman Kevin Wynn. He's from the state of Georgia, committed to FSU for a long time now, but there's been points where we thought South Carolina could flip him, Georgia, maybe Texas, and we thought he'd probably have flipped by now, but we're 2 days from signing day. Can FSU hold on here?
Yeah, USC was another, but they're out of the picture now. I think Georgia's very much in play. He was in Athens on Friday. There's some optimism around Georgia that Kevin Wynn could end up with the Bulldogs. He's one of their top remaining targets down the stretch. But there's also confidence around Tallahassee after hosting him on Saturday that they continue to hold the tide and the momentum to get him signed. South Carolina lurking as well. Tough to completely put a finger on this one as Kevin Wynn, when he gets to these campuses, he gives some optimism to the folks that spend time with him that he's going to play for them.
All right, FSU is circling back on Tavian Wallace. He's a linebacker that committed to Arkansas. A bit of a surprise this summer when he chose Arkansas over both Georgia.
Surprise.
What's that?
Huge surprise.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest surprises. And now Florida State circling back. Is he a legit flip target for FSU, or do you think Arkansas can hold on?
I think sources around Arkansas feel all right about it. I think obviously there's a lot of optimism around Florida State. He was there the last 2 weekends. They were the on 3 RPM favorite when he made his shocking decision to commit to the Razorbacks. But don't sleep on Georgia. He's been to a couple Georgia games this year. Their pedigree, particularly at the linebacker position, is exciting to him. Glenn Schumann has been recruiting him hard. So Georgia is also in the mix for Tavian Wallace.
All right, Florida State's recruit commit list has kind of been picked apart. They got a couple big pieces still left, and one of them is Solomon Thomas, the 5-star offensive lineman from Jacksonville. Can they hold on to him?
I would say right now I'm leaning towards him flipping somewhere, but with Solomon Thomas, anything can happen. The Seminoles just don't have an offensive line coach right now. You saw that with Peyton Joseph. He flipped to Georgia Tech on Sunday. Solomon Thomas, I think he's leaning towards leaving the class right now, but that's also recruitment that's going to take a lot of infrastructure and resources. We'll see if Florida State gets an offensive line coach in play, because I think they've already handled the other parts. So we'll see what happens as things continue. Depending on who you talk to, LSU and or Florida, you get a different answer on who's the favorite beyond that.
All right, Florida State fans, it has been a wild recruiting cycle for you guys. At one point, FSU was up to number 3. Now they're outside the top 20. Well, talk to us. How are you guys feeling about this recruiting class? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk some LSU recruiting. Just about 3 weeks ago, it felt like everything was falling apart, but Brian Kelly and that staff have stabilized things. And this weekend, They got one of their key targets, one of their key commitments on campus. We're talking 5-star DJ Pickett. Steve, now that he's been back to Baton Rouge one last time, how are you feeling about this Pickett LSU recruitment?
Well, talking to Pickett's dad after the game Saturday night, the Tigers beat Oklahoma to close the regular season strong. Fantastic visit. They arrived on Friday morning and spent all weekend there with Corey Raymond and the staff, the other commits and their families and players on the team. And I feel good about DJ Pickett signing with LSU on Wednesday.
All right, now let's talk defensive lineman Jakeem Stewart, the 5-star from the state of Louisiana. At different points, he's had some maybe perceived leaders at certain points, but you've always said, watch LSU. So now that we're 48 hours from National Signing Day, I'm watching LSU. What do you think of their chances of landing Jakeem Stewart?
Well, my on-3 RPM is on USC, but he took a visit to LSU this past Wednesday. Got a chance to get back around Coach Frank Wilson in person. That's one of the coaches he's talked to the most throughout his process. And I think that some optimism around LSU, around the other commits and folks that spent time with them, that they could make another run at Jakeem Stewart here at the end of the cycle. My pick, it remains on the Trojans. That's where the intel favors, but LSU, can they make a late charge and get it done like they did DJ Pickett in the summer? You can't rule it out.
All right. Now, there's been a lot of rumors around wide receiver Derek Meadows, one of the top wide receiver commitments in this class. Now, we've been talking Alabama, we've been talking Michigan, a little Notre Dame, but what are you hearing on Derek Meadows 2 days from signing day?
I think it's more likely he ends up flipping. Alabama's the program with the momentum. Wow. It seems like it's cooled on Michigan. Notre Dame is no longer in the mix. LSU continues to have dialogue, but Alabama is the program that's hot at the end of the cycle for Derek Meadows. Another name for LSU, Josh, is Bryce Baker, quarterback committed to North Carolina. He's in the top 100. Penn State got him on campus this weekend. Penn State had been having dialogue with him all fall. LSU just starting to get in the mix there. Baker's someone that may not sign during the early signing period. He'll still enroll early, but we'll see. He could take another visit before it's time to enroll early. And if he does that, I like for him to get on LSU's campus.
Wow. All right, LSU fans, how you guys feeling about Jakeem Stewart? Is he going to be the next 5-star addition to this class? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, let's talk a little USC Trojan recruiting as we are just 2 days from signing day. And USC fans, you guys have been through it in this cycle, but it's not over. There could be a couple big additions before it's all said and done. Let's start with Jakeem Stewart. Steve, he has been trending to the Trojans. What are you hearing on Jakeem Stewart?
Yeah, I still like my on-3 RPM in favor of USC, obviously continuing to monitor LSU at the end. He visited the Tigers on Wednesday, as we talked about earlier in the show, but was at USC for his official visit, which included the win over Nebraska, and I think that springboarded the Trojans into pole position. There were times where USC has led in the past, so it was just a chance to get back out there, feel those vibes, get around that coaching staff in person, and they blew it out of the water. The relationship with Coach Eric Henderson, his track record of development, what he's done in the NFL with guys like Aaron Donald winning a Super Bowl, and he's a New Orleans native. There's full trust that he can get the best out of Jakeem Stewart. The opportunities at USC for football players during their time, and then the resources for football players when they're done at USC, the connections to Los Angeles, those are very exciting and enticing for Jakeem Stewart as well. Sources believe that USC is the team to beat with 48 hours to go. Would be a major pickup for the Trojans as they put the finishing touches on what could end up being a terrific class. They flipped Husan Longstreet from Texas A&M, 5-star quarterback. If they can now land their franchise piece on defense in 5-star Jakeem Stewart, that would be phenomenal down the stretch.
Now, he's not the only defensive lineman you got trending to the Trojans, is he?
No, Christian Ingram is a touted player at the point of attack from the Peach State, Covington, Georgia, Newton High. Took his official visit to USC this weekend. Look, this is happening fast. He was originally going to visit Vanderbilt. South Carolina gave him an official visit 2 weekends ago where they set the pace, but USC blew it out of the water. He loved the resources that USC has, the alumni appeal of the school, and then certainly, again, the coaching staff. USC is looking like the team to beat going into his December 4th decision.
All right. Now, USC would also like to add an elite linebacker to this class, and they got Madden Faramo in their sights. You got any guesses on where he could end up?
Yeah, working the story with Chad Simmons, Scott Schrader, and some of our other insiders, talking to sources on Sunday. Notre Dame's been the longtime on 3 RPM favorite. He was at the game on Saturday, saw Notre Dame play well. But I think his vibe is, I want to help USC dig out of this. I want to help USC get back to being the Trojans of past and play closer to home, be around his family, the belief in this coaching staff. Coach Entz, the linebackers coach. USC this year put together one of the best defensive coaching staffs that you could. And I feel like they've shown improvement this fall. They've had the lead in every game in the fourth quarter but one, this Notre Dame game. Madden Faramo has seen all that, been to campus a few times. Staying closer to home is becoming really relevant at the end. The on 3 RPM favors Notre Dame as we film this on Monday morning, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's on USC sooner rather than later.
There you go. USC fans, talk to us. How you feeling about this finish? A couple big names lined up. Who do you think you land? Let us know. Comment section below.
And that'll do it for this episode of the Wiltfong Whiparound. Please hit like and subscribe to the On 3 Recruits page so you are up to date on the latest, best recruiting information and videos. I will be at the On 3 recruiting headquarters on Wednesday as we do our early signing period show. So look forward to being down there with you, Josh, and Chad Simmons will be there. Charles Power will be floating around, Pete Nakos. We're going to have a great show breaking down the day's biggest storylines. Some of the biggest commitments like Isaiah Campbell will be on with us. So excited for that this week. Thanks for watching the Wiltfong Whiparound all season. Hit like and subscribe.